So you've introduced your scene, your monologue, your song for class or at an audition, and just before you start, you think, what do I do now? That's the first moment. Let's talk about that first moment for a little bit. Sometimes we think we need to come blazing out of the gates at 100 miles per hour, and unfortunately that can actually be counterproductive. It leads to strain, it leads to stress, and also it doesn't really get you warmed up into the scene. It looks like you're kind of finding your way around for the first, third of the scene or the monologue or the song, trying to figure out what to do. So I'd like to give you some tools, some techniques, and some exercises to help give you a nice, full, lived-in moment right at the top. The first thing you need are your given circumstances. Be sure those are very specific to you and that you feel very strong about them. Those are your who, what, where, when, why, and how. So when we talk about who are you? Who are you talking to? And also, who's being talked about that's not in the scene? What are you doing? Something very simple. I'm quitting my job. I'm asking my parents for money. I'm reconciling with my sister. I'm starting a war with France. You can also have an activity that's your what. What am I doing? I'm sewing. I'm folding laundry. And we'll talk a little more about that in a bit. Where? Where are you? Very specifically. If you're in a house, what room are you in? Also, have you been here before? Is this place familiar to you or is it brand new? You might also think about if you're going somewhere else, you're on your way somewhere. When? What time of day is it? What season? What year? Another good when to consider is if you're late for something. It's 3 o'clock, I need to be somewhere at 3:05 and this person won't stop talking to me. Then there's why. Why are you here? Why are you talking to this person? And more often than not, this answer to why is going to be similar, if not the same, as your objective or your need or your want. There are a lot of words for it, but it's the core of all of your behavior, the thing you want, either from the person there with you or from somebody off stage. It's stronger if it's the person there with you. And then we have how. How are you getting what you want? We call these actions or tactics. I think there are other terms for it, but basically something very active you're doing to get what you want from your scene partners. And when we talk about scenes, we're not just talking about 2 or 3 people on stage. We're also talking about monologues and songs, right? There's somebody out there you're talking to. Everything is a scene. Let's touch on where and what a little bit more. So you've introduced yourself, you haven't started talking or singing yet, and you have a moment to establish your environment. Take that time, take a little bit. Now when you're rehearsing, you can really embellish. Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, really explore your surroundings. And then when you get into a performance in class or at an audition, you want to take just a couple seconds, but know where you are, establish furniture, architecture, see pictures on the wall, where's the light coming through? And then that will probably lead to what? An activity. What are you doing? I'm putting away clothes, I'm writing a letter, I'm cooking dinner, I'm starting a war with France, any of those things. But in starting a war with France, you might be writing a proclamation stating the war is going to happen. So get specific with those and establish those before you start talking. So there's something happening that's grounded that you can focus on and feel confident about. The other given circumstance that's very important is who. We want to establish our scene partners. As we said before, everything is a scene. A monologue isn't just a person alone talking to nobody. It's talking to somebody out there. Even if you're talking to yourself, it's you out there. So at the beginning, really take a moment to establish those scene partners. It might be 1, might be 2, might be 3, 1 here, 1 there. See them, have a point of view about them. If you establish that point of view, we as the audience are going to see it and we're going to engage even more with you. And that point of view, it doesn't have to be huge. It could be nonverbal. Again, you don't have to start talking yet. It could be a fold of the arms, it could be a smile, it can be all these little things to let us know how you feel about that person or those people. And if you have someone on stage with you, you introduce yourselves, make eye contact, check in with each other, And again, establish that relationship through point of view, nonverbal or otherwise. So let's talk about the moment before. This is the thing that's happened just before the scene happens. Because you want to remember, everything that happens in a scene was caused by something that happened before it. So that first line of dialogue or that first sung line of a song is happening because something happened right before it that caused it to happen. So you need to know what that is. How do you know what that is? Well, you can look in the script. That's a good way to do it. See the line right before it that was written. See the action that happened right before it that happened. Maybe, you saw something happen and they all left the stage and you're alone. You're like, what was that? If you're finding it a little bit difficult based on the text as written, a tool I like to use, especially for rehearsal, but also in performance, is to have a very simple question that you're answering. So you have your first line of dialogue. Imagine a simple question that line of dialogue would be a response to. Let's look at Viola from Twelfth Night, for example. Her first line is, "I left no ring with her. What means this lady?" Well, you could think of a very simple question like, "Why do you look so confused?" I left no ring with her. You could have two questions in that first line. Why do you look so confused? I left no ring with her. So, what means this lady? Then you have the line as, I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Answering the questions. Something else to consider with the moment before is if you're entering a scene or beginning a scene, what do you expect is going to happen? That's a good question to always have in mind. We talked about the why and the how. So you have your objective and you have your action. You have your scene partner. What do you think they're going to do, or how do you think they're going to respond to what you want from them and how you're trying to get it? And then just check in with whether or not that worked. Did you get what you want? Did they respond the way you wanted them to respond? And then you move forward from there. But it's a good way to have a nice, solid first moment. And finally, this is a technique for rehearsal. So let's say you have your given circumstances, you've a really strong environment, really strong scene partner, you know what you're doing, you have an activity, you've explored your moment before, you have all of that homework done, and you're still just having a hard time kind of launching into your scene or your monologue or your song. So what I like to do sometimes is paraphrase into the text. And what that means is basically telling the story up to the point where you're about to speak or sing in your own words. So let's look at the line from Romeo and Juliet. Romeo says, "He jests at scars that never felt a wound." The actor might just be having a little bit of trouble launching into that. It's like, well, I know this was happening and this was happening. My friends went away. It's like, okay, let's build with that. It's like, okay, well, I've been out all night with my friends. We went to a party. I was in love with this one woman, but she ran off with somebody else. But then I went to this party and I think I saw the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. I was so enchanted. And then I got out of there and my friends just keep making fun of me and making fun of me. And then they walked away. I mean, he jests at scars that never felt a wound. See, so it just helps energize and build so that when you have that first line, it really launches into it with that energy. And remember, this is a good technique for rehearsal. And the more you do it in rehearsal, the more it'll work its way into your body, into your bones, so that when you're in a class situation or an audition situation, you're not going to stand there rattling off all of these things that aren't in the text, leaving the person behind the table scratching their head like, well, I've never heard this version. So do this in rehearsal. It'll work its way into your system, and then once you get into the room, you can just launch right into that first line. So to recap, we have our given circumstances, who, what, where, when, why. Make sure those are very clear, very specific to you. With the where and the what, give yourself some time to establish those things between your introduction and starting the scene. And then your who, establish those scene partners, know who you're talking to, and know how your point of view, how you feel about all of those people. We have our moment before. Know what just happened, and if it's not there in the text, just have a little question that you're answering with your first line. And also remember what you expect to happen when you speak that first line or have that first action. And do you get it? Do you get it right away from your scene partner? And then for rehearsal, tell the story in your own words. Paraphrase into the text. See if that gives you a nice launching pad into the piece. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Now go out there and be brilliant.